Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And today we have the First Lady of Real Estate, Emma Duncan, on the podcast to talk about negotiation nightmares.
Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we've got a really cool episode today, and I'll give the background in a second. But pretty much we're talking about negotiations. And Mike, you love a negotiation, but it's not our area of expertise.
I love confrontation. I don't necessarily love the negotiation piece. I'm not great at it. There's a really classic instance in my life when I was trying to buy a car when I was younger. And I went to the car yard and I said, I like this one. I actually didn't. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. But the guy was like, I don't know. It's like $7,000. And I was like, no, it's too much. And he's like, what's your budget? And I was like, well, 10. And he's like, well, then the car's 7. Like rookie Mike mistakes. Yeah.
I'm guessing negotiations are a pretty big part of your job, though.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the job. Yeah.
And when we're going to talk about it in a second, but when buyers come along, how does the average buyer deal with the negotiation situation?
There isn't like a one kind of rule per person. It's always different every negotiation. Sometimes there's $1 million to close in a gap, and sometimes you can't close $5,000. You should be, but sometimes there's a sticking point. So it depends on the value of the house, the type of buyers you're working with, and the motivation. That's really key with selling. A motivated buyer and a motivated seller, and then you can meet somewhere in the middle.
I always find that I always feel sorry for estate agents when you've just got a seller who won't meet the market. Like the expectation's just so far out here, and they're like, in 2021, it was worth this. And you're like, well, it's 2 years in a recession later. So let's see if we can match that a little bit.
That's probably a key thing for a buyer, is getting a good knowledge base before or while you're looking. So once you've found a house that you like, if you find out, ask the agent, why is the owner selling?
Yeah.
If they've bought a house, very motivated. If they're just want to see what happens, not motivated.
Yeah.
So you want to find out. That should be one of your first questions. If you see a house you like, why are they selling? Find out their motivation. Then you're probably going to have, a better outcome than someone that just wants to test the waters.
Yeah.
If we get what we want, we might sell.
Yeah.
That does happen.
Yeah. And so even just that little tip, right? Somebody who is a first-time home buyer knows nothing. And that's where this whole podcast episode comes from, is Mitch in my team at Lighthouse is very exciting getting onto the property ladder. We've actually got a couple of our team recently jumping onto the property ladder. But Mitch, super smart guy. Do not tell him I said that. But super smart guy. But it's like anything in life, right? If you haven't done it before, if you don't know the process, if you don't know how to go about it, when we're talking to people with so much, Mike, you talk about this really well, where there's a big gap in knowledge. Yeah,
the information asymmetry, right? And the classic case of this is, where it really matters or where you see it most, is a large ticket purchase, and it is the first time that someone has done it. And that is houses. If you've ever shopped for a diamond or a diamond ring, you will know that no matter what store you walk into, you realize very quickly you know nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And whatever they tell you, you're like, oh, it seems to make sense. I guess this is right. Yeah.
I think it's always fascinating. We have people come to an open home. They walk through it for, 5 minutes and they say, I'll make an offer on this. But then that same person might want to buy a barbecue, and they might research it for months until they pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So there are tools that you can use to help you on your journey. We do it every day. You do it all day, every day as well. So, you can phone a friend. You can go to some open homes. If you find that you meet an agent that's super helpful, friendly, you feel comfortable reaching out to them, you can ring them when you've found a house that you like and ask them, what do you think it's worth? What do we do now? Or ask the broker, how do we do this?
Yeah. So before we get into more tips, the more background of kind of Mitch's story. So Mitch, I've been, like, which we're talking to lots of clients at the moment, you got to get on with the freaking show, get onto the property ladder, house prices where they are now. We don't know what will happen over the next 6 months, but a good idea where we might be in 2, 3, 4 years time, and you don't know how quickly that will move. So I've been pushing Mitch, let's go. And so he's gone out and looked at, like, new builds, just much easier. He's been looking at like tier 2 peninsulas, and looking at North Shore, looked at 4 or 5 houses and goes, this is the one I want to make an offer on. So he made an offer on a 3-bed, no, I wasn't having a stroke. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathroom house in Tier 2 Peninsula. And he offered $780,000 for the property. Now, the funny part is the email exchanges between the real estate agent and Mitch. Now, like any industry, important to point out, there's great people, there's very average people, a lot of people in the middle. So let's talk about, I'm going to read this email to you. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Hi, Mitch. Thanks for your continued interest in the property. And in response to your latest email and text, I have been a real estate agent for 15 years and the other person for 30 years. And we see these estimated price reports every day. We use the same system and know how it works. Very long sentence. There are no valuations at best. At best, they are guesstimates and not even an appraisal. ! How many properties sell as they estimated prices? Very few. These are just computer-generated guesstimates. I love the word guesstimates. And offer such a wide likely selling range and are not credible. If you are going to use these ranges, Mike, why not use the high ends of the ranges?
You might want to give some background that Mitch had based his offer on a desktop valuation, which is an online tool. It's an algorithm that tracks sales from comparative properties in the area that have been sold recently.
But, Mike, in short, computers don't value properties. People do. We have had 3 offers on this property, with the lowest being $820,000. Remembering Mitch has offered $780,000. I think at this point he might be around $800,000.
He is, yeah.
You mentioned in the market. Well, if you are not aware, the market is moving again, and all these stats are now redundant. Example being that we just sold a 40-year-old entry-level home last night in a cross-lease site, the same size as this one, for $800,000 under the hammer, with multiple interest, and took 3 weeks. The identical one next door we sold in May for $783,000 and took 6 weeks. Please be aware that I referred to a possible offer coming in this weekend. Well, we currently have that offer being prepared as we speak for this property that we are hours. So this is 4 o'clock on a Friday. We are hours away from presenting, in which case we would advise you at this stage that it will be a multi-offer situation. If you want to miss out, that's okay. If you want to buy, then the price is $840,000 and is the lowest the vendor will sell for you. And you have until 5 p.m. today, or we will focus on the other offers. Please confirm. Thank you.
It's a lot.
I mean, I was getting fatigued reading it.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, look, I'm no expert in negotiation. I'm no expert in selling houses. However, we have an estate agent here, Emma, who is a absolute expert in selling houses.
Thank you.
Give me the quick and dirty. What do you think of this email?
It's not how I would have done it. I think it's good to pick up the phone, have a conversation.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and talk about things. So yeah, it's not how I would have done it. I think the thing to remember is we have a fiduciary duty to a seller, a vendor. So our care is always to them and at the utmost standard. But we have a duty of care to buyers. So our role is to not antagonize a buyer, but to make them feel good and comfortable and help, help them buy the house. So communication should really be of more of a helpful manner to start with. If we want to start with the guesstimates and not even appraisals, I'd say always go to an agent and say, well, send me your top 3 comparable sales and outline each one and how they differ or compare and what's inferior or superior to the property at hand.
Yep.
Floor area, building age, land size, the location, most important.
Yeah.
So your 3 top comparable sales. We do appraisals for vendors, which are confidential. But if you're asking the agent and it's in writing, what are your top 3?
Yeah.
And how do they directly compare? That's going to give you a good indicator of the value and where it's sitting. First and foremost.
Yeah, it's a funny one, right? Because we use these online tools all day, every day to just try and pick out a value for a house, and they do have some limitations. You know, we use them because banks use them. That's effectively why mortgage brokers and people in finance use. So we have a baseline for the value of the sale. Quite often, though, they'll get tripped up if there is anything to do with like the size of the property is a little bit different. Maybe there's too many bedrooms. They don't have, recent comparable sales that are accurate. So, don't get me wrong. It is a bit of a guesstimate, but.
And the ranges can be pretty broad.
Yeah,
I looked up my own property this morning because I was coming here, and the range is $1 million.
Yeah.
So
from 9 to 10 million.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You set yourself up for that.
It's good. It's been a good bull run.
No,
yeah.
but it could be 500,000 or 1.5. I don't know. But
that's not where you live.
But that's, so if you're going to argue the point in that way, they're pretty broad. But you've got to remember as well, sellers use them.
Yeah.
They're going on homes.co.nz or OneRoof, and they're going to see where their property is sitting. There is a little tip there. If you do jump onto homes.co.nz, you can see if it will have agent appraised value.
Yeah.
So that might be a little clue where a price might be sitting at. Because that's something people might not know about. But I think again, I personally don't have time to analyze sales data and how they compare to these online systems and if they went in the range or not. CVs again, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is to ask the agent, what are your top 3? And really analyze those, and phone a friend, find a real estate agent, go on to OneRoof or homes.co.nz and look at a top agent in the area, ring them, say, hey, I'm just looking at this listing. What do you think? Where do you see it sitting?
Yeah.
They should know the area and what the sales data is.
Yeah, and the big thing is, right, so the agent has responsibility to the vendor. So what's happened in this situation, Mitch just pretty much gone, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not interested in going down this route. So he's gone, okay, that's fine. I'm walking away. He's then gone and conditionally bought a property on the North Shore. So huge congratulations to Mitch for getting
Welcome
on.
home, Mitch.
Done.
The North Shore.
Yeah.
What a spot.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Enjoy those extra 2 degrees of warmth.
Yeah.
And this agent has come back about 2 or 3 days later and being like, okay, we'll do 8:30, which is where Mitch was happy for
Was
it
pretty
to
much
sit.
there, yeah.
Yeah. So, essentially at the end of the day, they've lost a sale. Now, how much of that is the agent at that time
Or the vendor.
The vendor going through another weekend and going, am I going to lose this?
And that's another thing. If you don't try, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's the sellers do come down in price and buyers do come up in price. And sometimes that's overnight and sometimes it's in the morning and sometimes it's not at all. But you do itch away at things and get deals together.
Yeah. I always think you made what I think is probably the key point about this email specifically is that negotiations are communication and picking up the phone is absolutely just vital. I genuinely find it's easier or not easier, but more enjoyable to negotiate with Australians than it is New Zealanders.
Is it our accent?
Well, it's just that they're like, if they don't want something, they just say no. Then they don't do like, oh, let me think about it. I might just, they're very clear and they're very happy to just pick the phone up and just realize that they are in a negotiation and it's not personal. We're just sorting out a price here.
Yeah. Kiwis are kind of like, they don't want to do something, but they don't want to tell you no for some reason, right?
And all these Australians, you're doing business.
yeah.
But I guess like for me as well at the moment, it's sometimes I'm trying to buy a house in Gisborne at the moment, and I have found I have found the negotiations on that pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
Because the pace at which I'm
Different
getting
city
responses
pace and town pace.
is just like 48 hours. And I'm like, you set a deadline for me. I've met that deadline.
Set a
and beaten
deadline
it.
for them too.
Yeah.
You can put in your email, there's a 5 p.m. today deadline.
Yeah.
Don't make it too drastic.
Yeah.
That
33
it's not
minutes.
gonna. And then at 5:01, you're like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
But but put a deadline on your offer if you feel that don't do it if in the first instance. But if you're getting frustrated and you're feeling like, how do we get to a deal here? Then go and put a deadline in.
Yeah.
Call to action.
I also think they potentially are looking at me like, oh, it's an Aucklander. Let's just juice the price up a little bit. Yeah.
And probably, I'd get excited.
What about, I guess the other piece is the fatigue with dealing with these situations and with the market we're in at the moment. We're like, just really, people need to get on with it. They need to get something. They need to get moving, you do due diligence, all that kind of stuff, but we do something. But you go through these sort of situations. How often does a buyer or a seller kind of go through these sort of situations and go, oh, this is too high, I'm just going to put this on the...
Yeah, you've got to keep going. You will get the house, but find out the motivation and just try. You've got to shop. I was talking to our auctioneer just this morning, and he said 20% of auctions that he's finding aren't having any bidders, and about 30% just having one.
Yeah.
So get your ducks in a row. Turn up to that auction. Sellers are motivated to get it sold under the hammer.
Yeah.
And you can negotiate just on your own and get the job done.
Yeah.
So it does pay to keep that momentum going. Get a pep talk. Ring Mike.
Ring James.
Ring an agent.
Don't call me for
Ring James. Ring an agent. Phone a friend. Get a pep talk. And keep going.
I think that is quite key. If you are going to an auction and you've never been to one before, go to a couple beforehand. Have a look. See what it feels like. See how it all goes down.
Yeah.
Bring someone to the auction who's got a bit of experience, because they can be very overwhelming very quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's also there's things you can do in an auction to help as well. You can watch body language. So like you just said, go to some auctions, but you can, if you're in a bidding war and the person you're bidding against pauses for too long, gets their phone out, starts doing calculations or texting someone for money.
Mum, Dad, I know, please, come on. Yeah.
Ravi, please, I'm good for it.
Yeah.
If someone's like bid, and then all of a sudden they've slowed right down, you're going to go, I'm going to do a higher bid now, or, change your $1,000 bid to a tenner and wipe them out. Just watch body language and watch other people and see how they're going, and then you can tell how close you are to the finishing line.
It's always when you see like two people just going at it and they're down to like 1,000, and then the phone call, nah, we've all checked, okay, not going to happen. Going once, going twice, then someone from the other corner is like $5,000, and you just see everyone like,
son of a bitch.
It could have been their last 5,000.
It just it's so funny when you see that happen. You're like, you feel so bad for these two people who've been like duking it out, then some other third party's like, I'll come in now,
smirking in the background.
We had an auction at the start of the year and 3 different people did that. So bidding war, one comes in at the end, they run a war, then a new one came in, and it happened 3 times.
The fatigue in the auction.
You got to imagine the auctioneer loving that one.
Yeah.
But we're not in that market so much, like the auctioneer said. So if you can get your ducks in a row and turn up, you do have a better chance of owning. If you're the owning person, you've got 100% chance of being the top bidder.
And those ducks are finance, due diligence, that is solicitor's due diligence, building report, and I guess registered valuation if you need it in some instances. But if you have a broker or a team of people around you, it will be a lot easier.
Cool. What a plug. Any other tips for buyers that you can think of when we're looking at this email? Any war stories that are relevant that you can share?
Well, yeah, a war story. We had actually a multi-offer last week, and there were 2 offers. One was unconditional, one was conditional. The unconditional offer was less. The conditional offer was slightly more. The owner went with the unconditional offer. So ducks in a row again.
Yeah.
If you can, you can't always, but yeah, find out the vendor's motivation. Is settlement important to them? If it is, you can leave the settlement date blank on your offer and let the owner pick if you want.
Yeah.
You know, one little thing to go your way. So yeah, some people love that a family might be buying their house or a young couple or, you know.
Yeah, because the other bit with this email as well is the lowest offer being $820,000. It's kind of like, well, how many conditions were around that offer and that kind of thing.
I mean, there could have been a house sale condition in there. So if you don't try, you don't know where you might go. So it is a good idea to try, and the more you do, hopefully you don't have to do too many.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, Emma, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And hopefully if you are negotiating around property, you know, somebody who is negotiating around property, make sure to share this with them so they can get a good idea of what they need to do. Emma's available. The Ray White team, touch base. Mike's there since we're doing plugs as well. And I'm just a guy with a microphone having a great time. We'll see you next time. Please hit us with a sub, a review, and a like.
Cheers.